Hi everyone and welcome, and yes, you read that title correctly. This is my late father's P30T from Pentax, and it's not working, it's broken, it's non-functional. I had it checked out, but it wasn't really worth to completely overhaul it and fix it, so I mainly use it as a piece of my set, as you've seen maybe, like it was up here, and never really got to using it again. I even bought lenses for it, but then it just broke on me, and it's to do with the winder, and it's a common problem with these like lower end film cameras. And this is my also partially broken A7R Mark I, which I recently featured on the channel and actually did a proper portrait shoot with. And as we speak, I'm doing this deep dive in a film digital hybrid camera because that era to me was really cool. It was really cool to see that fusion between old and new back then. And it got me thinking, like, could I do a project like that? And suddenly, maybe it was a moment of insanity. I realized that I had my dad's P30T still lying around and my personal A7R. And I did some digging around, looked at the measurements, dimensions, and the internals, and I kind of came to the conclusion it could be a viable option to see if I could transplant the A7R, which is mine with many memories, into my late father's Pentax P30T, which would make it an incredible fusion between his life and my life. So let's break it down. The goal is simple, right? It sounds simple. You take the internals out of the A7R, you push him into the P30T. Now there's some stuff that we're going to leave out to make the shooting experience more film-like, and that's also going to help us when it comes to the space inside of this body. And there's also some stuff that's really lucky, right? Because this is the only body that Sony put out together with the A7 that's that thin. Officially, it's the thinnest full-frame camera Sony's ever brought out, even thinner than the A7C and A7CR series because of the fact that those had IBIS, so the body was thicker. Lack of IBIS is a positive for us in this case. The other positive here is that it has surprisingly simple internals. Now, I'm not calling this project simple, but it's basically PCBs, screws, and mostly ribbon cables. So there's not going to be an extreme amount, I think, of complex soldering and rewiring needed for this to be able to be adjusted to that. And we'll talk about the challenges when it comes to the button placement and all that stuff in a little bit. But that's also very simple to tackle, I hope, right? Disassembling this thing should be possible. I looked at the website and I feel like I understand that stuff. There are specific things that I need to let go. Some I want to let go. The LCD screen is coming out. We're not going to put that on the P30T. I think it's really interesting to just use the EVF to make it more film-like, but there are things like the front shutter dial. I'm not sure if I can make that work. I need to really look at the internals and see if I can modify this body and make that fit here, that whole mechanism, right? Because we have a grip to work with on the Sony A7R, and on the P30T, it's a simple slab of a body. The other thing that might be challenging is the settings dial on the top. Exposure compensation is out for me, that's fine. The shutter button and the on-off button, I'm really curious to see what's beneath this top assembly because we'll need to be able to transfer that in its entirety. So we also have an on-off button on the P30T. And whether or not that comes in the place of the existing shutter button, that's all something we'll need to figure out as we go. We're keeping the menu button because we need to access all of the menu items, and we're keeping at minimum the rear dial and the rear button for close-up focusing. And then if I use manual lenses, aperture is not going to be a problem at all. And you might have been asking yourself, what about the mount, the lens mount? I looked into it and I've seen the teardown and the disassembly of the A7R. I've seen the disassembly of the P30T, and I have made the strategic decision to take the entire lens mount system and place it into the P30 body, because I think if I saw correctly, the entire sensor array plus the shutter could possibly fit in the front part, I hope, of that lens mount system, which leaves us a lot of space behind it to place that PCB and any other components that need space as well. It's one of the main positives of the A7R being such a weird camera. By accident, didn't plan this, that the internals are just so thin. Because if you look at it without the LCD screen, you can see how little space this camera actually takes up when it comes to the internals. Really, really interesting, and maybe lucky, but that we have to find out as well. The pentaprism of the Pentax looks quite big compared to the A7R, but as you can see, it slopes down, which is quite a big difference compared to the Sony A7R's viewfinder. Now, I do think we can mod the pentaprism in a way internally that we could possibly consider cutting out part of that pentaprism and then slotting in the entire back part of the viewfinder of the Sony. There are two things that I'm willingly ignoring right now because it's something that I need to figure out in the long run. Power, the battery, can I flip it and have the entire assembly be set sideways because now it's down the grip, right? And should I power it through an external source or maybe use the dummy adapter and see how I can power it with a small battery bank? I don't know. That's something we'll need to see at the end of the whole assembly and disassembly or as we go as well. And the other thing we'll need to ignore, like blissfully ignore right now, is where exactly to place the SD card. The first main goal here, because I see that as more of a final decision-making part of the journey, but the main thing is like how far down can we gut this P30T, which will be the next video, and how much can we adapt this body and all the separate components to the P30T, and I do feel pretty confident about that. The only thing that's challenging is getting these buttons on here, getting the cables run correctly, and making sure it's light sealed as well. We need to conclude this stuff because I'm rambling. But if this doesn't work, I have a plan B. Of course, I have a plan B, come on. And that plan B is if it doesn't work out, I'm going to make this beautiful disassembly breakdown and take a beautiful picture of that, of both of the cameras, and we'll have it framed and hung in my studio somewhere, right? It's gonna be fine. I don't have much fear of losing or breaking something. I do have fear, but it's like if it does, it's fine. We have a backup plan and then we'll try again, you know, with other cameras. I feel like this may or may not, it depends on the success of it, is a very cool thing to keep doing with you guys, beside the mystery cameras and the deep dives and all the retro stuff that we're doing. I think that's about it. So if you're crazy like me and want to follow along, make sure you subscribe, and the next video will be gutting the P30T completely down to its core to see how much space we're working with, and then we get the calipers out and start measuring stuff. But I can't wait for the next video, and I hope you like this idea. I think it's absolute madness, but then again, it's something my dad would have loved to do with me. So yeah, it's super special, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you.